All right, we're going to start with the odd ones for the review. So looking at number 1, what value completes the square? What's the formula that I use here?
B over 2 squared.
Awesome, b over 2 squared. And what's my b here?
Negative 10.
-10. So negative 10 over 2 squared. What's negative 10 over 2?
5.
And what's negative 5 squared?
25.
25. So 25 completes the square. So for number 2, what's my b? 4. So I have 4 over 2 squared. What's 4 divided by 2? 2 and 2 squared? 4. So 4 completes the square here. You don't have to, but it helps for the next section when solving, because that, like, you're adding 4, so you have to add 4 to the other side. Because it'll always be plus, because even if it's a negative number, when you square it, it becomes positive. All right, number 3. Yes. All right, so solve each equation by completing the square. So what's our formula we use for completing the square? Like the last one? Not that one. That one's quadratic formula. For completing the square, we still use b over 2 squared. And then remember, we want our x's on one side, so it'll be x squared plus x, and equal to the number on the other side. So we need that space there. So what do I have to move in number 3? Awesome, I have to subtract 12 on both sides. So this is x squared minus 8x is equal to, what's 5 minus 12? Negative 7. Now what's the formula I use to complete the square? B over 2 squared. And what's b? Negative 8. So this is negative 8 over 2 squared. What's negative 8 divided by 2? Negative 4. And what's negative 4 squared? 16. So 16 completes the square here. I'm adding 16 in this space. What else do I have to do?
Add it to the side.
Awesome. Add 16 to the other side. So then I have my parentheses squared. And what's going to go in my parentheses? Awesome. Whatever's squared here and whatever's squared here. So it'll be x minus 4. And then that's equal to negative 7 plus 16. 9. What do I do next? Square root both sides. So the square root cancels out with the squared. It doesn't affect anything inside the parentheses. The last class asked, do I take the square root of 4? No, you're just taking the square root of the whole thing, and it cancels out with the squared. And then it's equal to the square root of 9. So on the left, I have x minus 4. And what's the square root of 9? Plus or minus 3. Perfect. Don't forget, whenever you take the square root, you need the plus or minus. Don't forget. What should I do next? Before I can add 4, what do I have to do? Separate them. So I have x minus 4 is equal to 3. X minus 4 is equal to negative 3. And then, Marina, what can I do? Add 4. So x is equal to 7, and x is equal to 1. Perfect. Good job. Yes. So let's look at number 5. What do I have to do first? Add 11. So remember, I want the variables on one side and the number on the other. So this is n squared minus 6n is equal to 16. What's going to go in that space? B over 2 squared. And what's my b?
Negative 6.
So negative 6 over 2 squared. What's negative 6 divided by 2? Negative 3. And negative 3 squared? 9. So I'm adding 9 in here. What else do I need to do? Add 9 to 16. Then I have my parentheses squared, and what goes in the parentheses? Here it uses n, but if you want to use x, that's totally fine. So we have n minus 3. And what's that equal to? 25. 16 plus 9 is 25. What do I do next? Square root. So n minus 3 is equal to? Plus or minus 5. And then what should I do? Separate them. So n minus 3 is equal to 5, and n minus 3 is equal to negative 5. Then what should I do? Add 3. So n is equal to 8 and negative 2. So number 6, what's the first thing I should do? Subtract 8. So a squared plus 6a is equal to negative 8. What's next? So 6 divided by 2 squared. What's 6 divided by 2? And what's 3 squared? So in the blank, I'm adding 9. And what else do I have to do? Add 9 to the other side. So what goes into my parentheses squared? A plus 3. So since it's a positive 3, we put plus 3. And then what's that equal to? 1. Square root both sides. So it'll be a plus 3 is equal to plus or minus 1. And then what's next? Separate them. So a plus 3 is equal to 1. A plus 3 is equal to negative 1. Then what? Subtract 3. So a is equal to negative 2, and a is equal to negative 4. Yes?
If you don't put, like, if the parentheses on your dividing stuff with the, like, 6 over 2, we take lines off?
No, but just make sure you're neat with your work, because if you, like, a lot of, like this, I know you could do in your head, because 6 divided by 2 is 3. That's not too difficult. But just, like, in order to get the right answer, you have to write something down, because there is a lot of work going on here, and just make sure you're neat with your work, because if you keep it in your head, it's harder for me to give you partial credit because I don't know like what you're thinking, and then it's easier for you to make mistakes if you're just doing everything in your head. But you don't need to write the parentheses if you know like 6 minus 2 is squared. What should I do first for number 4? Add 9. So I have v squared minus 8v is equal to 9. What's next? B over 2, and what's b? So negative 8 over 2 squared. What's negative 8 divided by 2? Negative 4, and what's negative 4 squared? 16. So I'm adding 16 here. What else do I have to do? Add it to the other side. Now what goes into my parentheses here? V minus 4. And then what's that equal to? 25. Mendoza, what do I do next? Perfect, square root it. So I have v minus 4 is equal to? Plus or minus 5. And then what should I do? Split it into 2 equations. So v minus 4 is equal to 5. V minus 4 is equal to negative 5. And then we add 4. So v is equal to 9, and v is equal to negative 1. Good job. All right, I'm going to do an extra completing the square one. So when completing the square, what should we do first? plus 27. So I have x squared plus 14x is equal to what? 32. Now I need to figure out what's going to go in the blank. So 14 divided by 2 squared. So 7 squared. So I'm adding 49 in here. I have to add 49 on the other side also. So what goes into the parentheses now? X plus 7. And that equals 81. Perfect. What's next? Square root it. Plus or minus 9. Perfect. And then what do I do? Split them up. So x plus 7 is equal to 9, and x plus 7 is equal to negative 9. Subtract 7. All right, so here's another one. What should I do first? Add 26. So x squared minus 4x is equal to 22. Then I do b over 2 squared. What's b? What's negative 4 divided by 2? So I'm adding 4 here to add it to both sides. Then what should I do? Awesome. X minus 2 squared, because we take the x and the minus 2. Then what? Can I take the square root of 26?
No, so you just bring the 2 over. And then
How do I bring the 2 over?
Add 2.
Perfect. Awesome. Yes. So next we have solve each equation by taking the square root. So we want to get the variable all by itself. So looking at number 7, what should I do first? Divide by 9. Because 9 is being multiplied to x squared, we do the opposite of multiplication, which is division. So x squared is equal to 1. And then I need to get rid of that squared because I want x all by itself. So then what should I do? Square root both sides. So x is equal to plus or minus 1. So don't forget, anytime you take the square root of both sides, you need the plus or minus, just like the ones before. All right, let's do number 9. What should I do first? Add 5. So a squared is equal to 0. Then what should I do? Take the square root. So what's a equal to? It would be plus or minus if it was any other number besides 0, but it's just 0 because positive 0 and negative 0 don't matter. 0 is just 0. So you don't need the plus or minus here. So 0 is the only number that you don't need the plus or minus for. How do we feel about this section? You want to see another one? Yeah? All right, 8 or 10? All right, let's do 10. What should I do first for number 10? Add 3 to both sides. So a squared is equal to 25. Then what should I do? Square root it. So what's a equal to? Plus or minus 5. Perfect. All right, next we have solve with the quadratic formula. What's our quadratic formula?
B plus or minus, and then B squared minus 4AC over 2A.
Awesome. You need to know this formula for tomorrow. You have to remember this for your quiz. Yes. Yes.
Oh, I'm in the wrong.
So your quiz will have the same directions as the review. It'll say solve with the quadratic formula, so you know you have to use this. And then remember that it is like x squared plus x plus the number equals 0. And then this is your A, B, and C. So it has to be in this order. So let's look at 11. What should I do first here? Get it equal to 0. How do I do that? Subtract 4. So k squared minus 9k minus 4 is equal to 0. Jason, turn around.
No, he's asking me.
So we need to find A, B, and C. So what's A? 1. What's B? Negative 9. What's C? Negative 4. Then we plug it in. So negative B, so negative 9 plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times A times C over 2A. Then we simplify. So just simplify going from left to right. What does the negative 9 turn into? 9. Plus or minus. What is negative 9 squared? 81. What's negative 4 times 1? And negative 4 times negative 4? 16. So positive 16. And 2 times 1? 2. Am I done? What's the last step? Add under the square root. So what's 81 plus 16? 97. So that's the answer. All right, let's do 13. Nick, what should I do first for 13? Move the 9 over. So 10a squared plus 6 plus 6a plus 9 is equal to 0. Then what? A, B, and C. So what's A? What's B? What's C? Perfect. Now we can plug it in. So negative 6 plus or minus the square root. What goes under the square root? 6 what? 6 squared.
And then negative 4.
Uh-huh.
And then times 10 and times 9.
And then what's on the bottom?
2 times 10.
Perfect. Now we simplify. So we have negative 6 out front, plus or minus the square root of, what's 6 squared? 36. What is negative 4 times 10? And what's negative 40 times 9? Negative 360. And what's 2 times 10? 20. Then we have negative 6 plus or minus. What's 36 minus 360? Negative 324 over 20. Let's do number 12. For 12, what should I do first?
Move the 7n over.
Move the 7n over. How would I rewrite the left side?
6n squared minus 7n plus 4.
Awesome. 6n squared minus 7n plus 4. Has to be in order.
Then would you find your A, B, and C?
Then I find A, B, and C. So what's A?
6,
What's B?
7,
Negative 7. And what's C?
4.
4. Then we plug it in. So I have negative B plus or minus the square root of, what comes next? Negative 7 squared. What goes on the bottom? 2 times 6. Perfect. So negative 7 becomes positive 7. Plus or minus, what's negative 7 squared? 49. What is negative 4 times 6? Negative 24. And negative 24 times 4? Negative what? Negative 96. If you don't know that, write it down. We have 24 times 4 and multiply. So 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 8 is 8 plus 1 would be 96. And then what's on the bottom? 12. And then last thing we need to do is subtract. So what's 49 minus 96? Negative 47 over 12. Good job, guys. So next we have to find the discriminant. What's our formula for discriminant? B squared minus 4ac. So it's just what's under the square root in our quadratic. So b squared minus 4ac. And then just to give us a little refresher, if our discriminant is positive, how many solutions do we have? 2 real solutions. If our discriminant's negative, how many solutions do we have? No real solutions. And if our discriminant is 0, 1 real solution. So you need to know this for tomorrow also. All right, for 15, just like before, we need it in order and equal to 0. So what should I do first? It doesn't matter which one you move to which side, as long as it's equal to 0. So if you move the 3a squared to the right, you'll get the same answer as if you move the 10a and the negative 3 to the other side. So which one do you want to do? Okay, so we'll move the 3a squared. So subtract 3a squared to both sides. So this will be 0 is equal to negative 3a squared minus 10a minus 3. What's a? What's b? What's c? Negative 3. So now we have b squared so what's negative 10 squared? 100. And then what's negative 4 times negative 3? 12. And 12 times negative 3? Negative 36. So it's 100 minus 36? 64. So our discriminant is 64. And how many solutions do we have? 2 real solutions. So if you were to have moved the negative 10a and the negative 3 to the other side, you should have gotten the same answer.
I got the same answer.
If you didn't get the same answer, then maybe your math was wrong somewhere, but it should have been the same. So it doesn't matter which side you move it. So for 17, what should I do first? Minus 2 and add b. So what order should I rewrite this? Awesome. So what's A? What's B? And what's C? All right, what should I do next? 1 squared minus 4 times negative 2 times negative 2. What's negative 4 times negative 2? 8, and 8 times negative 2? Negative 16. So what's 1 minus 16? No real solutions because it's negative.